Welcome to Kenversations. On February 16, 2020, Michael Quercio of the 3 o'clock and Salvation Army gave me a call. We had a great discussion about the bands, about music, about visiting his family in Lorain, very close by to Cleveland here. And most significantly, we ended up talking about racial unrest and lockdowns. And about 2 weeks before it happened to us all, Michael stated, "I just don't think that can happen again." Fortunately, it did. So enjoy this conversation, this Kenversation. I did, and thank you very much, Michael. Hey, Michael.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Okay, sorry I was late.
Oh, no problem. We'll get it done. So, appreciate your interest in doing it. I obviously generated from that post on Facebook about the raspberries. So, it was really cool.
Well, are you in Ohio?
Yeah, I'm in Cleveland, Ohio. I've been recording shows for many years. You and I met when you opened for REM here, and I sat next to you guys. And we ended up swapping tapes, to both you and Danny, I believe. So
I used to go to Cleveland when I was a kid. I liked Cleveland.
Really? What brought you to Cleveland?
My parents and all their sisters lived in Lorain.
Not far.
Yeah. So Lorain, like to go shopping at Higbee's.
Wow, you do know it.
Higbee's had a great, like a cutout record section.
That might not have been what you might have been thinking. Was it a kiosk right in the terminal tower where they sold promo albums and stuff like that?
I don't know. I remember being in like a big department store, and I found the first New York Dolls album for like $2 with a cutout. And then there was another place called Gold Circle that sold records. Gold Circle is like a kind of like a discount store or something.
Yeah, like a lowbrow Target.
Yeah, like a lowbrow Target, right. And I remember Sheena as a punk rocker was on the top 40 single. It wasn't in L.A., but in Ohio, in Cleveland or wherever, it was like, in the top 40 list of singles.
Well, Cleveland really was known as like a tastemaker city and a big enough metropolitan area with a big enough cross population of different people that we got tested. Columbus also was on many products, but in music in particular, Cleveland broke. I mean, the first Bowie concert in North America was in Cleveland. And
yeah, my cousins, my cousins would come visit over in L.A. if we didn't go to Ohio, and they were all, I didn't ever heard of David Bowie, and they already, they had Hunky Dory, and we had never heard of really of Bowie, but they knew all about him. So yeah, you're right.
And that's part of what the purpose of my podcasts and interviews are. We've got the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame here, but our dog's chiming in. They have a whole thing for the Cleveland local music scene, and people ask, why did Cleveland get the Rock Hall? I mean, we haven't had that many breakout artists, compared to other places, but it was because Alan Freed coined the term and commercialized it, and
right,
and we've had a lot of things happen here that are significant, and the Bowie concert being among them, and.
Right, and my cousin was like 10 years older than me. He was like, the older boy. But he told me that he used to drive. There was a place in Lorain on the lake that bands would play, and he saw the Raspberries there, I guess very early on. He said the Raspberries used to play there, some club on Lake Erie or something.
Well, he might have been talking about some of the Hullabaloo clubs, and what Cleveland had were teen clubs.
You sound just like my relatives. I mean, your accent. It's like I'm talking to one of my cousins.
Cool. It's funny. Ohio Bell used to be the nation's voice. Our accent was supposed to be so bass that they used the Ohio Bell ladies as the standard.
Oh, wow.
So
Who was that? Who was it? You guys had a TV show, because we would watch it in Lorraine when I was there. It was kind of like an American Bandstand. It was a young, dark-haired kid that was the host.
Yes, that young dark-haired host, Don Webster, just retired a couple years ago. He was then and remained a weatherman, but that show that you're talking about is called Upbeat. And
okay, yeah, I remember that show. I mean, because my cousins would watch it.
Well, it was syndicated to 100 stations out of Cleveland. It was recorded.
Oh, wow.
Recorded at WEWS, our ABC affiliate, and most notably, probably Otis Redding finished doing 3 songs for Upbeat and got in an airplane and perished. And
oh, wow! I didn't know that. I didn't know that was
his
last thing. Wow.
Yeah, but the Yardbirds with Jimmy Page were on there miming to songs, but it was rare to see Jimmy Page with the Yardbirds on television, and it really was an institution. Every touring band came through and played on there. Many of them played live. A lot of them.
I remember seeing Alive and Kicking do Tighter and Tighter.
Wow.
I don't know how I remember that, but I remember when I was a little kid. I remember you watching that song. I remember my sister played the song. They were a band, a lot of members in the band. I remember.
So
yeah, I remember them doing that.
That's cool. That's really cool. So, I have to say, the most notable intro or tagline I could give to interviewing you is, here's a man that, bridged Paisley Underground to Paisley Park. And ironic that the 3 O'Clock's, first incarnation really was bookended by those. So, when you look at it, the people you've played with, who you've interacted with, it's pretty phenomenal. I mean, your band probably didn't take off the way you thought it would, but I mean, my gosh, the music you guys made was great. And
it's funny. Half of me, I guess, wished it had taken off further. But there's this other half of me that's surprised that it got where it went. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I wasn't expecting to go around the whole country and for, people in other places to know the music. I wasn't really expecting that. When we made that first EP, the Baroque Hoedown one.
The one on the Minutemen's label?
No, it was the First Frontier one with Cattle Girlfriend and all that. It really caught on, and we did a first tour on that, and I was really surprised. I was surprised that it caught on the way it did around the country. Wasn't expecting that, really.
Where besides the REM show at Music Hall did you guys play in Cleveland?
The Pop Shop.
Wow.
A year before that, a couple times before that, like 83 and 84, we played at the Pop Shop.
Cool.
I think, and I guess that was a club downtown.
Yeah, it was underneath the old Agora.
And I think we played. There was some other place, I can't remember the name. Maybe the Agora, I don't know, but I do remember playing the Pop Shop.
Perhaps the Fantasy.
Maybe.
Peabody's Down Under is another one. Game Theory played there.
That sounds familiar too. I know there was another club.
Yeah. So what was your earliest musical, realization? I mean, I know mine was the Beatles cartoon, and what caught you first? What's your earliest?
I was as being like 4, 5, 6 years old. I was obsessed with the Supremes.
Wow.
And my cousin had given me maybe at 4 or 5, a little kid, had given me that 2-record set, the blue one.
Yeah.
Supremes, Grand Rock Supremes Greatest Hits, it's a 2-record set, it's blue, and there's like a kind of a portrait of them on the cover.
Silver print, I think.
Yeah, and I just played that to death and just became this huge obsessed with them. I mean, to the point where I even remember being 6 years old, and I guess Ed Sullivan came on later. I remember I had to ask if I could stay up because they were beyond.
Beyond
so
the bedtime.
Like 60, they were going to be on Ed Sullivan. They did that song "No Matter What Sign You Are," which was like one of their later hits before Diana left. And I remember very, very vividly, watching that and being so excited. That was like my Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show, being able to actually see them, on TV like that.
Very
so I had never actually seen them before, and I was really, and then even after she left and they had the hits with the new lead singer, I was still buying their singles, and so that was really my first obsession, I mean, I knew who the Beatles were in that, and I liked listening to the radio, but the Supremes were really, I was just obsessed with them.
Well, the music you made more reflects, the 60s pop and psychedelia of the Beatles and many other groups, and seems sort of ages away from the Supremes.
Yeah. But if you listen to the way I play bass, it kind of sounds like that Motown guy. I definitely was that was stuck in my head when I was playing bass, I think.
That's cool. Hearing the details of something most people are just hearing the lyrics and the singing,
right.
Talks to your musicianship. I was struck, too, by one of your Facebook posts recently about producing, the early Dream Syndicate stuff, or... No, I'm sorry, it wasn't the Dream Syndicate. What was it?
Game Theory,
Yeah.
They just got... There was a guy managing them at the time who kind of had the idea. He was, we were kind of a hot thing, and would I be interested, because there was he thought there was a similarity between me and Scott. And so he sent me down there, the alternate learning stuff. And so I said, yeah, sure, I'll come up. And so they flew me up there, and I did the sessions with them, and right away I struck up a very good friendship with Scott. We just really clicked. He had a very dry sense of humor. It was very funny, and we all liked the same music, and we just became right away. You meet someone and you feel like you've known them.
Yes, I mean, if you click with someone, it's magic.
I just really clicked with him, and we just became great friends, and then he kind of had me. Mitch did the first album for them, the Real Nighttime. I went up and did background vocals, and I would do that, and then I did that again for the 2 record set that they put out, and it was a lot of fun. To the point where much later on, when he had really broken them up, and 3 O'Clock had broken up, so I kind of went up there, would go up there maybe with a year and a half of kind of going up and back and forth, and us trying to get it together. I was kind of in a later version of Game Theory.
I read that you were in a touring one and recorded...
touring one, and we recorded a few songs. And a lot of demos and a few songs. It's actually coming out on Omnivore this month. All those recordings that I did with them.
Excellent.
And it's really real. I got the finish, the conception by the put together. It was really fun stuff. I'm looking forward to getting a copy of it. So
that's great, and it's got to be rewarding to having people wanting to hear this, now 30-year-old music and being interested in it and digging deep, and thank God for the vinyl revolution.
Yeah, exactly.
So, you're what, like 57, 58-ish?
Oh no, 56.
Okay, sorry to make you a little older.
No problem.
so you might be too young.
I was born in 1963.
Okay. So
what year are you born?
62, so we're not far off.
Oh, okay, you're a year older than me. What month?
March. My birthday is coming up in 2 weeks from today.
Mine is the 13th.
Well, another Pisces. Nice to swim with you.
Oh, what are you?
Yeah, we're both Pisces.
What day?
Oh, March 1st, 2 weeks from today.
Oh, you're the first. Okay, then I'm 13 days. You're Oh,
Yep, we're both fish. So, were you old enough to have any memories of Kent State? I mean, I remember it more from like a soldier point of view, and hearing it because we were so close to here over and over. But do you have any Kent State memories or connections? Or we've got the 50th anniversary coming up here.
No, because Ohio comes in because my cousin when we went to Lorraine for vacation again to see the relatives, and she was all into it, and so that's how I had heard about it, I think.
Yeah, so nothing really impacted you, or
she had that 45.
Oh, by Neil Young.
She had the Neil Young 45 that she played, and she drove my uncle, her dad, crazy because she had in the basement. You guys have basements over there, and she had a little room with groovy posters down in the basement, and she had the American flag as a tablecloth, and that really pissed him off. So I remember the American flag as a tablecloth, and she kept putting that Ohio song on her record changer.
the rebel youth.
Yeah, Tin Soldier, Nixon's coming,
And here the mention of Nixon brings us to probably your most controversial latest thing. You get put in Facebook jail and challenge folks and stand up for your beliefs more than most people are brave enough to do. So I have to.
Well, I don't see. Everyone kind of looks on it as. I don't see it as life and death as my friends do. I just see it as politics, and I just see this as another president, and I just don't buy because I've heard it so many times. I remember, every so often this guy is, he's the devil, he's not going to leave, blah, 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 blah. I mean, how many times it's just I'm kind of come on already,
Stalemate's
get
not
over
good.
it. And that pisses a lot of people off because they just really get into it. They just really get into it,
Yeah.
Like this other politician is going to be great, and no, they're not, because none of them are. So I just have a different take on it, I think, that I think people don't understand, or they don't, or they, I don't get it.
It seems like if you're on the left, it's okay to, attack the right just for their beliefs and
right.
Without, I don't know, factual. It's almost more emotional than factual.
It's so emotional, and because I'm not a Republican. I never have been. I'm not a conservative. I'm gay. I just tend to view this differently, and I guess it's kind of like the rebel or the punk rock in me. It's you can't tell me how to think, and you can't tell me to shut up. It's not in my DNA.
Good for you. It shouldn't be. So
I guess I'm just, I'm insulted, but I don't like being told what to say, and what I can't say. And maybe that's probably not a good thing, in showbiz or whatever. But I just can't live my life like that. I don't know. So here it is.
Well, again, you're applauded for being brave enough to take on the onslaught and to fight the trolls in your comments and everything like that. I do think you might enjoy it a bit.
I think everyone enjoys it. I mean, if you look at these things, you get into it, and then everybody starts getting into it, and it becomes this forum. Whereas a lot of other people's sites, it's all just their friends agreeing with them.
Or if they don't, they're not friends much longer.
That's cheaper. Whereas I just let it go. I come in and say what you want to say, no matter what it is, And so everybody starts. There's nobody to friend you or to erase your comment or anything. It's just come in and say it. So it's a lot of fun for people. Because there's not a lot there's not a lot. They don't have a lot of friends where they're allowed to do that. So.
Well,
anyway,
that's good. What do you think about being people our age that were raised in traditional analog, society and mores that had existed from basically World War I, and then seeing this whole digital explosion that we live in, and then what it's doing to the kids and the people who have never seen anything else? What?
Well, I know younger kids and what they like, and it was explained to me even by some other friends that are parents that this music means something different to their kids than it meant to us.
Yeah.
It's not the rock and roll generation anymore.
What do you think is the driving media? What's the media that carries a message to that generation?
It isn't about there isn't an intellectualness that we used to get from like Bob to Elvis Costello to in my view, there isn't a. It's more of just very transitory, and it's very disposable.
Yeah, how people get music now differs so much from what the investment that we made. We take our money, we earn delivering papers, buy the record, read the liner notes,
right?
Look at the album.
Anyway, I think this is just a different way of looking at it. We're looking at music differently. Than they are now, and I think maybe it has to do with the technology. We didn't have all these other things to distract us, and really, it made music that much more important. I just don't think it is anymore.
I think a huge gap. So many of the younger folks are into the virtual worlds and video games, and to a sense, we used to take, whether it was music or satire from National Lampoon or any kind of media, and create our world from that.
Yeah, and we had to go to the arcade, and at the arcade you played the game, and while you were playing the game, they played rock and roll over the thing. I mean, it was.
And you socialized with people. You saw people.
Yeah, and you were around other kids like that, and so it's just very. It just isn't like that anymore.
Yeah. I don't know if music will ever get to be as powerful as it was, and maybe Townsend was right when he lamented rock is dead, and thank God for you guys and the punksters that said, oh, fuck you, it's not quite dead yet. But
right.
I don't know about the relevance has been dwindling since that time, and I'd love to see a new musical movement, and fortunately we're getting old enough that we don't have to lament that too much longer.
Right, maybe not in our lifetime, but maybe all this will get tiresome, and people and another generation will look into, I think it's probably bound to happen. Everything is cyclical,
Yeah.
But I don't know if we'll live to see it. But
so, what's your greatest concert experience, whether it was you playing or you witnessing?
Oh, gee. I guess my greatest experience would have been being really, when I was like 14, my parent, it was easy to go see shows in Los Angeles because in Los Angeles, all the clothes sold fries, so they were considered restaurants.
Okay.
So you could in, and I had very I had parents that were very, what's the word I'm looking for, just brass. They would drive. There was a DJ here named Rodney Bingenheimer who would have shows at the Whiskey Go-Go on afternoons, Sunday afternoons, and to drive me, and they'd wait for me, or they'd go have lunch and come back and pick me up. And I got to see a lot of neat bands like the Dickies and the Germs, and I got to see a lot of. I saw. My sister and her boyfriend would drive me, and this is when I was still a middle school kid. But like I said, you could just go and I got to see. I saw the Dead Boys.
Wow.
At a place called the Starwood. I saw the Dead Boys play the Starwood with that 78. And I remember Steve Baders got on stage, and before they started, he said, "Hello, we're the Raspberries."
Oh, wow. Did they do a Schlock version of Go All the Way?
No, they didn't. They went into everything from the first album. But you were just able to do those things, and there were a lot of. You could be a young teenager, and at the same time I was going to regular concerts. Like I saw Queen and Thin Lizzy, and I saw Kiss and Cheap Trick, and a lot of great double bills like that. Here in the late '70s in LA, and those were my fondest experiences. Is just. I saw the Rolling Stones when I was like 14, and I got to go right up to the barricade. Right up to, back then those barricades weren't very far from the stage.
Yeah.
So, Mick Jagger's like right there, and just got to see the tail end of that kind of innocence when you could still get away with stuff that you just could not do nowadays.
Yeah. It's too corporate in this day and age. You go to the places that you used to have a good time at in the 70s, and it costs you an arm and a leg, and you can't bring in your cooler and blanket. And
Exactly. I mean, you just there was no rules. Nobody just thought of any. It was just, you sell French fries? Sure, 14-year-olds can go in. Festival seating? Okay, just how many? 12,000 kids at a stage.
Well, we had the Who concert a few days after the Cincinnati Stampede, and that changed all that. Well, it changed for me. It was one of my first youthful defiances. My mom said, "You are not going to see the Who. You could get killed." And when I had the good 14th row seats or something, heck yeah, I'm going, Mom. It's not festival seats. So I had to give her a lesson and disobey Mom.
Let you go.
So I don't.
And I got to see Bowie for the Heroes tour. Because what were concert tickets? $6.95 or $7.95, whatever they were. It was pretty still. That was still affordable for. I remember I'd open the L.A. Times. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, I'd open the L.A. Times, and it was Bowie. It was I guess it was for the Heroes tour. So, Dad, can you drive me to the Forum on the 14th or whatever to see David Bowie? And then I'd go to if I couldn't get a friend to come with me, it would be a school night. But my parents were like, well, as long as it's music, you can go out on a school night. So, and we didn't live terribly far from the Inglewood Forum here in L.A. where all the big groups would play. So, my dad would drive me, and then, it'd be over at like 10 o'clock. He'd pick me up. Right. I'd get up and go to school. The next day, and I just got to do a lot of things. I had very indulgent parents.
Good for you.
Which really allotted me to have a great experience that most kids didn't get to do,
Sounds like
I got, I went to school and I got my grades, so, they were
happy with that.
They were happy, yeah.
Did you go to college as well, or?
No, right after high school was when really I started recording. I had the first, the New Alliance stuff. That came right after high school, right during high school. And then right from there, I did the Salvation Army album. I went to a little junior college, in between, but then just music became like a full-time thing.
Talk about the dispute with the name of Salvation Army.
I think we were just looking for a name, and there was, down the street was a band called Red Cross. So we thought, okay, if there's a Red Cross, then we'll be the Salvation Army,
How did you, what kind of legal stuff came your way, or was it just preservation?
We never thought about it until they sent a lawyer much later, like a year later or whatever, almost 2 years later that we were using the name, that they finally sent a lawyer to a show, and we had to cease and desist.
And how did the name 3 O'Clock emerge?
It just popped into my head. And we were still a trio. It was before Mike Mariano, the keyboard player, joined. And I just thought, well, there's 3 guys, 3 o'clock. And then when he joined, it still sounded better than 4 o'clock. It just clicked for some reason, names. And I kind of knew that names weren't that important because, really the band,
the music,
become the name rather than the name becomes the band.
So that brings me to Paisley Park. Talk about the experience of being signed into the Prince umbrella and, having Wendy and Lisa and his song he wrote.
Well, it's funny because we were going to break. It was like we had done the Ever After album, and we were kind of done. And then somebody just kind of comes in and goes, Prince is a big fan. Why don't you guys, he has a label now, why don't you guys, and so it was almost as a lark, just put a word in, hey, Prince, we were ready to close the lights, and then we just got the word back quite quickly, like, yeah, Prince will do it.
Cool.
And then, so we were like, okay. But, and then he flew us out to Minneapolis. We saw his Love Sexy, the opening of the Love Sexy tour. And he had just opened his compound, Paisley Park.
Yeah.
So he was a big fan of he had seen our videos, and, with that whole Raspberry Beret was him doing the 3 o'clock.
I never thought of that, but
from
the
outfit to the hair, him being psychedelic, him naming, Paisley Park after, the Paisley Underground. And so he was quite into the whole concept. So I think maybe he thought it was kind of obligatory that he, signed the 3 o'clock.
Is that what brought Jason Faulkner to the band? Was being signed?
Actually, no. Jason, I think Jason came in just as that happened. I don't think we were signed to Paisley Park yet.
Mm-hmm.
I think they happened almost automatically. And he was just a kid that just came to audition, And he was a great player and real fun guy, and it just really clicked with him.
And he sure.
I didn't know that he really went on to other stuff, and
yeah.
But at the time,
just starting. Is that his first real professional gig, you think, or?
It was. He was just working in a record store.
Neat. Very cool. Very cool. So, out of all the people you must have crossed paths with, who changed your life?
Oh, gee, really? None of anybody really changed my life. Just I was very influenced. I had a lot of musical mentors that would turn me on to a lot of Danny, the drummer of 3 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
Well, was a big musical mentor as far as all the music he turned me on to. He has a very, even then, had a very vast record collection. And he was like, 10 years older than me, and had a lot of stories. I mean, he had an older brother that would drag him to all sorts of shows. He went to Altamont.
Wow.
And he actually sat on the stage during Altamont, and was as a 13-year-old kid, and then at the end of the show asked Charlie Watts for the drumsticks, and Charlie Watts handed him the drumsticks, and to this day he still has them. And so, and then was a very big record collector, so he just had all these kind of English stuff and all this great stuff that he just really turned me on to. So I'd say he was, a big influence on me.
Good enough that you got to spend so much time working with your biggest influence.
Yeah, and there's other people too that just I really see as musical mentors, or they just really schooled me in what I know and what I really love, you know. And then some stuff I discovered on my own, but I dare to give credit where credit is due. So.
All right, any other Cleveland remembrances? The Dead Boys story was great. You have any Pere Ubu, stories?
No, I don't remember them. I just mostly remember being a kid, and Cleveland being it was different for me, being from LA, going into Ohio, where you guys had fireflies and thunderstorms in the summer, and things that we didn't have here, and again, the clothes you guys wore were a lot. When I was a little kid, you guys had way hipper clothes. You guys knew about people think of Los Angeles as being, the place, especially when we were little kids in the late '60s, early '70s. But I'd come out to Lorraine, and my cousins knew way more than they dressed way cooler. They had way cooler records. You guys were way hipper.
Wow, that you've got two people sitting there mouthing "wow" to each other. We would never imagine that either.
I really, as a kid from LA, I really looked at my cousins from Ohio. They were the ones that were hip with the clothes they wore and the records they bought were way hipper than the people I knew in LA.
We'll take it.
I don't know when that changed, but at that time, you guys were definitely cooler.
Well, badge of honor. Thank you very much. That's great. So from your experience, I'm thinking what happened in LA when we were kids. I remember vividly watching on TV the LA earthquake. Tell me about that.
I was 8. Was I 7 or 8? Yeah. I remember waking up. It was early in the morning. It was like maybe 7. It was like early. I wasn't up, just about to get up for school, and I just remember waking up and see, I'd never been through an earthquake before. And I just remember violent shaking. Everything was violently shaking. And then before I knew it, my father rushed. I had my own little room, and my father rushed in and just picked me up, out of the bed. And my sister was already in the hallway. I had an older sister, 4 years older than me. And we all stood under the doorway. I think my mother had already left for work. My mother worked too, and she used to leave early for work. And I remember the three of us just standing under the front door. I think the thing was at the time where that was supposedly the safest place.
Right.
And I just remember the violent shaking. And then I remember for 2 weeks after that, we didn't have any school.
Cool.
So,
yeah, we got some snow here.
Yeah, and it was bad. I mean, freeways fell down and hospitals fell down, and it was bad. It was bad.
I remember being shocked by it as a 12-year-old or whatever, watching it on TV, and we were the first people to watch junk happen on TV, whether it was RFK getting shot or things like that, or the O.J. chase, and what about the L.A. riots with the Rodney King beating and all that?
I remember. I remember that. I remember the three-way chase. We were all just laughing. We just all thought he was, it's just, how more guilty can you act? And, in the back of the van, with a gun to his head or whatever. And, it really threw the whole city for, then the riots, which actually came close to where my mother and father lived in Carson, which was near Compton, which was a mostly African-American area, and you could see the fires. And then I remember there was a curfew where you couldn't drive.
Wow!
It was like a week or something where there was a curfew. It was like after 8 o'clock you couldn't be on the road.
That's hard for a musician to deal with.
I do remember I was dating a guy. I remember, and he would come over. It's like, oh my God, it was Michael, you can't be on the road. He goes, no, I'm coming over. And it was. I just remember it was like I don't know if you could do that now. I mean, even though that was, it was pretty recent time. It was like 90, 94 or whatever, 92 or whatever that was.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was weird how they just closed the city down. Like after 8 o'clock, you could not be on the road. I remember there was a little towns over by the airport here where they were completely blocked off, and you had to show your driver's license to prove that you lived there, or they wouldn't let you in.
Goodness.
Yeah, it was wild. It was wild. I don't know if that'll ever happen again. It was pretty wild.
Well, let's hope not. Riots and burning cities.
Yeah,
let's hope.
So let's hope that never happens again.
Cleveland had that happen in '68, and I remember being on the freeway with my dad and a tank passing us at 65 miles an hour, and it's jarring to see,
Wow. Yeah, I think we had lots of riots. I have an old friend that told me that he lived on his street and in a pretty nice little neighborhood in LA, and he said all of a sudden the National Guard just showed a big National Guard truck show up, and all these soldiers get out with rifles with bayonets on his block. In middle America, whatever, the ice cream man and all that, and all of a sudden there's soldiers with bayonets. So
yeah,
it can't happen here,
Yes, it can, and let's hope we can keep order in our divided country. Amen. Well, I want to thank you so much for investing time in talking with me. I have enjoyed your work and enjoyed meeting you guys and seeing you guys 35 years ago, and it's been great watching you on Facebook. You're one of my favorite people. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you for the conversation. Well, thank you, Michael. All right, have a great night. Have a good night. You too. Bye-bye. Good night.